Hi guys, so today I am going to talk about the 20s in general as a chapter and what they are all about. If you are about to become 30 in a few years or so, or you're entering your 20s, or you are in your mid-20s and you don't know what you are doing, this video is for you. So I'm one of the people about to turn 30 in a couple months, and some people are excited, some people are thinking, oh god no, I'm going to be 30, this is a disaster. So I am going to turn 30, I think, in approximately 7-8 months or so. So I'm not really at that point in time. Oh no. It's actually, it feels, it's still good. You are in your 20s, and yet my friends and I were currently 29, and we think, okay, we need to be quite conscious about this now. It's coming, it's coming. This is the final year of your 20s and everything. Personally, I'm excited about it. I used to be terrified about turning 30. I'm now visualizing the 20 as a preparation chapter. I'm not really seeing it as, oh, we're going to turn 30 and it's going to be a disaster. No. So my 20s, personally, it was a big roller coaster for me. It was big highs, big lows. Some periods of time were very neutral, nothing was moving. Some were high, some were low. It's a massive roller coaster. But I hope my experience for anyone entering their 20s is going to give you an insight of what's coming. And for those about to turn 30, if you are born in 96 or 97 like me, I hope this helps as well. So basically, I've never lived at my parents' house after 18 years old. I was always living either in an apartment or somewhere else from 18 up to 29. I've never done a year where I'm working from home at my parents'. And there were times I felt there were times I was tempted, very tempted, but I never did. The reason I've never done it is because I'm kind of a person, I want to make each year of my life count. So I really wanted all my life to be in London in my 20s. And I did my university degree from 18 to 21, and my parents said, you need to get yourself a university room, you need to do the uni experience thing. And I remember the transition from going from having a teenage life up till having an adult life was very tricky, because you finish high school and then you have to, control yourself, do your washing, do everything yourself. So of course the transition is a bit slightly new there. And transition periods are very difficult, and unfortunately my crossroad and transition phase happened when I was at university. I would consider my 3 years at university were preparation years. They were incredibly useful to prep me for my 20s, so 18 till 21, and very useful. It prepped me to move abroad, and I'm so grateful I had to go through that kind of dark period at university. And I don't want to say university is dark, but it was very new, a very new thing. Because if you think of high school versus university, they are incredibly different worlds. It was exciting, but it was a bit scary. And then I was really excited when I turned 21 to move abroad and I had my first job. And I felt that there are times I feel there's a universe, and they sent me this opportunity so I could go to London. And then I moved and I had an opportunity with the British Council, and I got to work there at 21, and I started building my life in my 20s. And I'm so grateful that happened after the difficult 3 years at university, because they were fun, but it was a challenge. And then having that new, it was as if I left the university crossroad to finally go to my dreams, to go to London. And that was a very exciting period. And then I would say my early 20s were incredibly goofy, incredibly exciting. I was very, very joyful. And I had the best time, because it was London, it was exciting. I was in France at the time, it just felt a bit boring and everything. So moving to London in my 20s, my very early 20s at 21, was incredibly exciting. And I worked. It was very scary, because it was my very first job, and my very first job was abroad. So I just remember being in this garden at around, I think, 2021. I was just a bit scared. Every time you've got a new challenge, you don't really know about it, you get a bit scared. So I moved, and then it started becoming a routine, spending my holidays in France and then going back to London to work. And then I got into drama school. I did a lot of different acting work, and it was a very exciting time. But my late 20s, they were, the years in my late 20s were really interesting. It was definitely a very tricky crossroad for me. And I basically I focused on two, three, four big areas of my life in my early 20s, that I forgot to look at the other areas in my life. And then the crossroad was really a really important time in my life to discover that you need to put a bit in everything. I didn't do as much traveling as everyone else in their early 20s. I was focusing on 2, 3, 4 big areas in my life, and it was all about that back then. And then when I approached my late 20s, I decided to so focusing on emotional health, focusing on physical health, I had an object bucket list, just making sure that each area of my life would be polished, because I was so focused on the other 4 in my early 20s up till the age of 26 that I forgot to focus on other things. And I'm so glad I had that crossroad. I've been through a crossroad in my late 20s for about 3 years or so, and I'm so glad I had that crossroad. I wouldn't become the person I am today in my late 20s if I hadn't gone through that crossroad. I think I would probably have evolved a little bit. There would be some kind of neutrality, and then you would evolve a tiny bit. But I focused more on mental health, on emotional work. I didn't focus on having, nice objects, nice things. There were certain areas in my life I didn't really focus on in my early 20s that I found were important in my late 20s. So there's this quote in the movie called 13 Going on 30, where there's this girl called Jenna. She really regrets what happened in her past, and she said to her mum, if you had one do-over, what would it be? And then the mother says, nothing. And it's like, really? Nothing? Like, you wouldn't want to make your life a bit different? You wouldn't want it to be more positive? You could, if you could go in the past, you could fix anything that looked a bit messy or negative, and then everything would look super great. But I can really associate with this quote. You wouldn't become the person you are today without those dark moments. And I went through a really tough crossroad. And if it weren't for that crossroad, I wouldn't have looked at the other areas of my life in a proper way, and I I feel my life has gotten more polished, healthier, better, if it weren't for that crossroad. And I am so glad. And now that I'm about to be 30 in about 7 months or so, I'm excited to finish my unfinished business this year, because I know I'm still 29. It's exciting to be in a big city at 29. Why not? And yeah, just I think for those entering their 20s, I think you should be super excited about it. I really consider your 20s to be an exciting part of your life. It really is. And I think don't take it too seriously, because I think in a way, I have regrets, but I'm glad I lived my early 20s in a very goofy kind of way. And then my late 20s were becoming a bit more serious. And then I know I was becoming a bit too serious in my late 20s, that I forgot my 20s is about having fun. And then I think what I've realized is that it's a balance between the two. But yeah, I'm so glad I had that crossroad in my late 20s. I got to experience like looking into mental health, looking into different activities I haven't tried, made new connections. It's if you're a 96, 97 person like me, I wouldn't look at your 30s like the end of the world. Maybe more like you're entering a brand new chapter, and you finished what you had to finish in your 20s, and now it's brand new, so it's exciting. It's like a start over kind of journey, so it should be incredibly exciting. And I know what I want to finish in my 20s, so I know it's going to be a brand new start. So yeah, I would be excited about it. Do what you have to do in your 20s, journal, label, and then you can enter your 30s with grace. But for those entering their early 20s, I would say be excited. I think going back to the quote, if you had one do-over, what would it be? Nothing. I would say nothing. I would honestly say nothing, because I'm glad I enjoyed my early 20s in a fun, non-serious way. And I did my university degree, I did my master's degree, but I had fun, and I did what I wanted to do. I focused on the areas that were important to me. But I'm glad I got to repolish everything in my late 20s. And yeah, I'm ready to have a wiser perspective of life. Bye bye.